I'm Matthew Wigger from McDonald Partners Real Estate, and today I'm joined by Dino Salvatore. Dino's been the licensee and director of McDonald Partners since 1991. Thank you for joining me, Dino.
Hey, Matt. How are you?
Really well, thank you.
That's good.
Dino, firstly, how is the market in the Sutherland Shire at the moment?
Yeah, look, the market's been pretty good considering. Obviously, we have had a bit of a change since the COVID-19 started, but we are still finding that we're still getting a good amount of serious buyers and sellers still considering doing stuff. Obviously, the amount the amount of people have dropped off, but the quality and has come across quite well. We've also still got a lot of tenants that are still looking to move. But yeah, all in all, yes, there has been a slight decrease in the numbers, but the quality's been the quality of inquiries and that has been a lot better. So that's pretty much what we're finding at the moment. So yeah.
Yeah. So I suppose it's taken away a lot of the people that were just sort of looking and maybe browsing, but weren't so serious, and it's just highlighted to us, I suppose, those buyers that are looking to do something sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that's pretty much definitely what's been happening, Matt. That's what we've found, as you know as well, because obviously you're part of the team, and that's what we've been experiencing. So yeah.
Yeah. So can you let our viewers know exactly what's changed through the restrictions that the government's imposed, and what that has affected as far as the market behaviour goes?
I guess the biggest thing is the way that we actually go to show properties now. We're not allowed to have groups of people walking through homes anymore. All our inspections have to be a one-on-one, which is quite similar to the way that we used to do real estate probably about 15, 20 years ago. Obviously, these days, everyone wants to look at properties quickly, have a quick walk through, and that's why a lot of the open houses were the norm. But what's happened over in pretty much the last 3 to 4 weeks is we've gone back to the old traditional way where you're doing the one-on-one inspections, and it's probably a lot better these days to do it that way because you get a better idea of what the actual client is looking for, and you'll be out and giving and they can give us the opportunity to give us more feedback than they did in the past with us having to call them back and stuff like that. So that's probably been the biggest thing for us. Obviously, there is a lot more online stuff that we're doing now in relation to the way people are looking at stuff. We're now doing like walkthrough videos because we can't physically take them all through at the same time. So they get a better idea of the properties before they actually physically go down there. So when they are going down to the properties, they are a better quality type of buyer as well because they know a lot more about the property than they did in the past.
Yeah, so like you said, it's a bit more high touch, but it's also a bit more high tech as well.
Correct. Exactly. Yeah. That's how we found it. So
yeah. Now, McDonald Partners also has quite a significant property management department as well. What sort of effects have you seen on that part of the business?
Yeah, look, with the property management, we've found that to be sometimes a little bit testing because obviously there are a lot of people that have actually gone through some hard times and generally going through loss of work or loss of income and stuff like that. So we've all had to manage that quite a little bit more in depth than we've ever had to experience before. But again, we've put into place a couple of procedures that are in place that we make sure that we're looking after all our clients, whether it be our landlords, our tenants, and that. So everyone has a great result at the end of it. Because at the end of the day, we've got to use everyone's circumstances are totally different. Like one person can afford to pay rent, another person can't, and then we've got to look at what's going to be the best solution for the tenant as well as the owner. Because at the end of the day, owners have got expenses, tenants have got expenses. So it's just trying to find a happy medium where we can negotiate that all parties have a great result at the end of the day. Yeah. But again, that's pretty much what we've found the biggest hurdle. But 90% of the stuff is pretty much hasn't changed. We're still doing the same inspections when it comes to finding tenants. The only thing that probably has changed a little bit is the way that we're doing our periodical inspections for our landlords. Because we physically can't go through every property at the moment because of the distancing rules that have come in. So we've brought in more of a
like an iPhone app sort of thing.
iPhone, yeah. So what we're doing is we're getting our tenants to help us out in relation to do those inspections, so they can actually we can give our owners a little bit of feedback of what's going on right now. And then later on, when we go back to being able to go out and do the inspections physically again, we'll be updating all that sort of stuff as well. So we've had to go down that technology route a little bit more. pass on to their owners, so they know that we are still doing the same things, but we've got to do it via the internet and technology instead of physically walking down the properties and that. So yeah.
Yeah. So in regards to the tenancies as well, what legislation or regulation has actually changed? Because obviously the New South Wales government, along with all the other governments for the states and territories, they've introduced their own measures. What in New South Wales has changed?
Okay. In the very beginning, everyone was pretty confused about what was going to happen. A lot of tenants thought upon themselves about not paying any rent because Scott Morrison, our Prime Minister, said nobody's going to be kicked out of a property for 6 months and all that. So tenants automatically thought they could just get away with everything. We're pretty lucky. It's been roughly about 10% of our out of our rent roll, and the properties that we look after have been affected by the COVID-19 and loss of job and stuff like that. So it's not too bad. We've also had a couple of optimistic tenants that have been trying to sort of take some of our landlords to see if they could sort of get on the bandwagon, and they haven't been affected. But the main rules that came into place were pretty much the tenants that lost 25% of their household income. They're the ones that qualified to be able to negotiate with the landlords. Now, obviously, landlords, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, still have got expenses that have to be paid. So what we've been able to sort of negotiate with the 10% of properties that come up, were the landlords help the tenants out, where they sort of gave them either a reduction in the rent or a discount for a period of about 4 to 5 weeks, up until the time that they could get government assistance. Okay, so just like banks, landlords still have to have bills and things like that. So what happens with the banks is a lot of the banks deferred their loan repayments and all that. A lot of tenants got confused with that, where they're thinking, well, okay, if the banks get away, the landlords are not paying their loan repayments, well, then we're not going to pay our rent. That's not what the rule things happen. What's happened is, okay, deferring means that the landlords and still have to pay their mortgages. What they're doing is, okay, they might be able to get away with a deferred payment for a few months, but what that basically means is they still have to pay those months of interest and loan repayments, but they've got to catch up later. So we've put into place a situation for our tenants to do the same thing. So obviously, if they don't have the amount of money that they're normally paying their weekly rent and their reduction in rent, what we've put in place for our landlords is, okay, some of our landlords have been able to carry some of that rent, and they've given them that discount for that 3 to 4 week period. But after that point, what we're doing now is, okay, even if the tenant still cannot afford to pay their full rent, their rent is still payable. But what we're doing is pretty much they're paying the less rent, but the difference between their normal weekly rent and the reduction in the rent is going to be carried for them to pay later on with a payment plan and things like that. So that's pretty much the biggest thing. But the biggest thing when it came to the rules, if you haven't been affected by the COVID-19, where you've lost your job or you've lost your income or whatever, nothing's changed when it comes to the rental side of the property. You're still liable to pay your rent. If you start falling behind, you don't get any special treatment. You still get treated like anybody else, and that's pretty much how it is at the moment. So we've had a few little things, but otherwise most of it has been pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, so I suppose in New South Wales, the good part about it is that we're taking care of the people that actually genuinely need the help, and those that don't, well, the same rules still apply, and the same lease still applies to them, basically.
Correct. Yeah, that's exactly. But you still get the occasional tenant that thinks they can use this to their advantage, but they've got to be able to prove to us and New South Wales Fair Trading, whenever we have an issue, that they have actually lost. They are having hardship. If they don't, well, they can't get away with trying not to pay rent. So that's pretty much it. So yeah.
And given that you've been in the industry for 30 years or more, you've obviously never seen anything like this, but you will have seen markets go up and down. So what would your advice be for someone that's considering a real estate transaction in the near future?
Oh, well, Matt, there's a lot of people ask us, when's it the best time to buy or rent or that? Like, it all depends on your own situation. Like, obviously, ideally, in a perfect world, you try and buy at the bottom of the market and sell at the top of the market. But the problem is no one rings a bell to let us know when that point is, when is it the lowest, when it is the top. But my recommendation to all people is, okay, you buy when you need to buy, or you sell when you need to sell, or you rent when you need to rent. at the end of the day, the market will always change. Like if you look back 10 years ago to today, the market was different to what it is today. But you look at prices 10 years ago from 10 years ago to what they are now, they've gone up, haven't they? So this too, even though we've had this little dip in the market over the last sort of probably month to 6 weeks, it's no different to any other time. Yes, obviously it's a little bit more different because we've never had a pandemic like this, but this too shall pass. So my recommendation to anyone is, okay, if you need to buy something because you need somewhere to live, you buy now. If you don't, or you don't need to sell something because you're not forced to do it, well, you don't. But at the end of the day, it's all about your own personal circumstances at the time. So when's the standard question, like I said, when is the best time to do something in real estate? Is right now, because that's what you need to do. You need to do what's happening. If it's the right time for you to do it right now, you jump on it. If it's not, well, then you wait. And that's pretty much how I've always sort of recommended.
And I suppose for a lot of people that are in secure jobs at the moment, it's an awesome time to upgrade, because I suppose what you need to look at when you're dealing real estate transactions is obviously the changeover price, and this is a good opportunity to really take advantage of the opportunity if you want to upgrade from, say, a person who wants to sell a unit or a townhouse to move to a full-size freestanding house.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point, Matt. What we've found, obviously, if you're looking to upsize to something better, there is no better time to buy when the market's low. Now, when you're buying and selling in the same market, it's all about the changeover, like you just said. Now, hypothetically, even if we've had a price change of property prices declining by 10%, hypothetically, if you had $1 million property that you had to sell, well, then that's now dropped by 10%. That'll be $100,000. So that's only a $900,000 property now. But if you're going to upsize to a $1.2 million property, hypothetically, okay, that's also dropped by 10%. So that $1.2 million property is now dropped by 10%, which is $120,000, right? So, but if you look at the changeover now, the $100,000 that you lost from the $1 million property that you had originally, it's now $900,000, and the $1.2 million property that's now dropped by $120,000, you've actually saved $30,000 because it's a lower market. So you actually save money, and it's exactly the same. It's all about the changeover. So ideally, if you've got the opportunity where you do have a secure job and you are considering doing the upsizing, no better time to do it than right now. So yeah,
because I mean, you're going to save on stamp duty as well. All your costs basically are going to be cheaper.
Look, at the end of the day, that same transaction, when you talk about that example that I've just used, you've saved $30,000 purely in the changeover cost, plus whatever savings you save on stamp duty as well. So yeah, great time.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for joining me, Dino. Thanks for chatting with us today. And obviously, we want to remind viewers as well that McDonald Partners is still operating as per normal. Obviously, some of us are working from home and over different places, but we're still most definitely accessible. And we've got a coronavirus web page on our website as well. But Dino, is there anything else you'd like to say to everyone out there about?
No, not at all. At this stage, look, guys, things are still tracking along as per normal. We're just doing things slightly different. But again, if you need any help or you want any advice or you just want to have a bit of a chat, by all means, give us a buzz. Happy to talk to anyone. Flick us an email, text, whatever you like. Happy to do that. Thanks again,
Dino.
guys. Matty,
Cheers.
take care.